So it's interesting, both those kind of mindsets and how we can like, yeah, come at it from different angles, but then still move forward in an intentional way. Just like through the coaching conversation, we can uncover like, okay, what it is that you're really excited about, what are your values, and how does that play into either your career or your business or things like that.
Well, in just a few moments, you're going to hear from a good friend of mine, Brittany, who helps millennials get unstuck now to avoid a midlife crisis later. She's a coach, and a really good coach at that. So you're going to have fun on this one. I'm going to have fun on this one, as I already have, because I've already interviewed her. So stay tuned in just a few moments, and you'll see what I'm talking about on the Finally Marketing Networks podcast. Well, hello and welcome to another edition of the Finally Marketing Networks podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell Slater. I'm here with a friend out of North Carolina, Brittany, who has a company called 𝗕𝗿𝗶𝘁𝘁𝘆, which is helping, well, I don't want to jump into it. Maybe I shouldn't do that, guys. I'll let her do it because I will probably mess it up. But she is a phenomenal businesswoman who helps, I want to say it, but I'm going to let her do it, and then we're going to dive into it more. So welcome, Brittany, to the podcast. How you doing, Brittany?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the, well-anticipated intro. I feel like you're really building me up, and now I'm like, oh, I gotta make sure my intro is real good here.
It's gonna be good because I love what you do. It's so niche down, it's so specific, and it's something that when I first heard about it, I was like, whoa, this is really, really needed, I guess, but I didn't know it was needed, if that makes sense in this whole world of things. So people are listening going, what the heck is he talking about? So I'll let you dive in to what exactly does Brittany do? What's your company? What do you do?
Yeah, so I founded 𝗕𝗿𝗶𝘁𝘁𝘆 with the mission to help ambitious millennials get unstuck now to avoid their midlife crisis later. And like you said, it's one of those things that feels very needed because a lot of us millennials are at that point in the mid-20s to mid-30s where we're just, we've been maybe in corporate America a while, and we're at that point where we're waking up and realizing like, oh, do I really want to do this for the rest of my life? Am I actually that excited about what I'm doing for work or whatever it is? And do I want to do it forever? Or is there something else that I would be more excited about? You're kind of at that point of questioning things. So I help them through coaching and workshops and online challenges. And I also just expanded into marketing coaching as well for millennial business owners and side hustlers and people like that who are also feeling stuck and need help getting out of their own way so that they can help execute on their own marketing plans.
Oh, love it. And if we were to, I know people will be shocked to know what the age range of millennials is, but I've always, at this point right now, isn't it 26 to 40? What is that range right now? It's into the 40s now, I believe.
Yeah, this year we are into the 40s. So I believe it is 26 to 40 exactly. So yeah, it's funny now there's a new term for like quote unquote older millennials are now called geriatric millennials, which is like so sad to me. And so it feels a bit harsh, but yeah, it's interesting. They're even like segmenting within the millennials because on the lower end, you're kind of closer to the Gen Zers, and then there's some overlap there too, it feels like.
And obviously, I think from the outside looking in, I will say when people complain about quote unquote millennials, I'm always like, no, you're talking about Gen Z. I don't think you're talking about the millennials, because especially when the people who say it are like late 30s, early 40s, I'm always like, you're like, if you're late 30s, I'm like, well, you are a millennial, so you're making fun of your own generation, whatever. So usually I feel like it falls into the Gen Z, which anybody who's listening, if you're in a Gen Z, no knock on that. I just think it's something that millennials have to make fun of Gen Z, vice versa, just like baby boomers and Gen X. Was it Gen X, the other one? Whatever. I think we all have to make fun of each other. I think that's part of how it goes. We want to say that ours is better than the other one and vice versa. So do you see yourself helping, I guess, more millennials then in their 30s, since that's the majority of it right now? Or do you have more people in the 20s that you've been helping recently?
Actually, I did notice recently it has been people more in their 30s. It's been the older end of the spectrum. Again, I hate even saying older end of the spectrum. Yeah, it's been interesting that mid 30s actually, I think has been a lot of people. And I'm 30 now, to be, completely transparent with everyone. So I'm, I guess, sort of on the younger end of millennials in a sense. But yeah, it's interesting. Like I'm not actually asking anyone their age when they come to work with me, and they can share that if they want, but they don't have to. So it's really any end of the spectrum. I'll work with anyone. It's just helpful to self-identify as millennials, and like for me to use that language, because millennials do like to self-identify for the most part, and they're like, oh yeah, that's me, and I can speak to them obviously in marketing more specifically and like target in on that demographic.
So if somebody was technically in Gen Z, you would work with them even if they said, I'm 21, or if somebody came to you and goes, I'm 62, you're going to go, all right. Or do you turn them away? What's your philosophy?
No, I will work with anyone of any age. And I have worked with people that are actually older than 40. And the one client actually called herself millennial minded. So she's like, she actually has children that are millennials. And apparently she'd shared a story one time with me that her son, who's a millennial, shared that she is millennial minded because she's very, open-minded and like wants to challenge the status quo. And that's really what I'm looking for in millennials. I think it's more the idealism of millennials that I feel like, and again, everyone has their own beliefs about whatever generation that you're in, but I think our generation is one of the first to really start questioning the status quo and start questioning the traditional corporate America 9 to 5, live in or work in one job for 40 years and retire there, and that's it kind of thing.
Yep. And I agree. That's something from very young age. I was like, I don't like that. I don't want to work 8 to 5 till I'm 65 is the thing that I kept, hearing and seeing. And I was like, it just didn't fit me. If it fits people and they enjoy it, go for it. Like there's nothing against it. It's just, I think you're right. I feel like we've seen more pushback for the millennials per se for that specifically. And for your clientele, have you noticed you have more, my gut would tell me you have more women clients than men, only because I feel like men are, a lot of times we don't like to admit we have an issue that we need to have help with. Like, oh, I can do it myself. I'm going to read a book, or I'm going to read an article, a blog, and I'm going to try and handle it myself. I feel like a lot of times we'll do that before we finally get to the point of asking for help. Is that kind of what you've seen so far in the industry and who you've been able to help?
Yeah, actually, it has been more women than men. I have had a few male clients, and the interesting thing I noticed about the differences is that the male clients that have come to me have been through referrals. So I think from that perspective, it was easier for them to like say yes to working with someone because a trusted friend or colleague had recommended me and made that connection a lot easier. Where when I've had a few like cold leads of men and, going through the funnel of like, okay, now we're going to work together, whatever it is. And a few of them have just ghosted me after I sent the contract. And it's like, okay, this is an interesting trend. I think something scared them and they weren't quite ready to commit. And yeah, like you said, maybe I try not to generalize, anyone, but it's like, I don't know, that seems like a trend, also in relationships that men do, when it comes to committing and like making it a little more official, they tend to ghost. So it could be a trend.
And see, I always, we're talking about like those roles. I feel like I'm so the opposite because for my wife and I was like, I said, I love you first. I was like, I want to get married quick. I was like, she's like, well, this is not like typical. Usually like the men are the ones that are like forward. And I was like, I know what I want. And that's what I want. And obviously eventually, got married. And then I know men, they're like, I don't want to ask for directions. I'm like, for me, at this point in my life, at least for sure, I'm always like, why would I wait? Granted, I know we have Google Maps, but why would I waste more of my time trying to figure it out on my own? I will rather just ask somebody where to go. Same with the grocery store. If I go in there, hey, where's the milk and eggs or something? I don't want to have to waste time walking around that grocery store, even though I do love grocery shopping. I don't know. I'm not, I guess, typical when it comes to the generalizing the gender roles or whatever you want to call them. But Yeah. Anywho, for this, for helping millennials, what would you say for, let's kind of maybe pick it apart to millennial business owners? Where do you see the advantage being for millennial business owners? Where are they coming from that maybe the Gen Z and the baby boomers, like all the different generations, are maybe lacking that the millennials have an advantage in, would you say?
Hmm. I would say it's interesting because millennials get such a bad rep for being lazy. But as two millennial business owners talking, I think we can attest that that is not accurate. Again, all of these things we're just kind of going around about generalizations, but I love like disproving them. And that's again like my clientele. Like it's more about the mindset is being millennial minded, is more being open minded and being ready to take action on what you want and going after it. So I see that a lot in millennials. You know, of course, there are some that aren't ready to move forward. There's some, you know, that'll ghost me or whatever it is. But the ones that are really ready to take action, I think that's such an advantage for business owners because we are, I think, just more willing to be like flexible and try new things and experiment with things, especially now with, you know, I think of social media and, you know, we've kind of grown up with it, not to the extent that Gen Z has, but we are definitely technology literate and have all these new platforms we're kind of experimenting with and trying new things when it comes to marketing. So I see that as a huge advantage for millennials is just putting ourselves out there more, trying new things, experimenting on different platforms, like playing on TikTok or Reels or whatever it is, and just like having a little bit more fun with it than I think, you know, like a boomer generation or older generations would have. And then, you know, we're not quite as literate maybe as the Gen Zers, but I think, yeah, we can do it in more of like a structured and intentional way where we're still like maybe a little bit more cautious and strategic and intentional with it, that we can really apply it to our business.
Okay. And what would you say then, going off of that, what is the biggest hang up for millennials in our generation that you see coming up in these men and women that you're coaching and giving them advice and helping them get out of the rut that they're in? What is the common thing that keeps on coming up that you're like, man, this is something our generation's struggling with and will probably continue to struggle with? What is there something that's coming up that you see?
I see a lot of imposter syndrome and a lot of just general like doubting themselves and doubting what they want and being scared to go after it. So I almost like split it in half, the clients I work with. Like the first half is they know what they want and they just don't know how to get there. And then the second half is they don't even know what they want. They just know they want something more or different from where they're at. And they're willing to do something about it, but don't even know where to start, kind of thing. So it's interesting, both those kind of mindsets and how we can like, yeah, come at it from different angles, but then still move forward in an intentional way. Just like through the coaching conversation, we can uncover like, okay, what it is that you're really excited about, what are your values, and how does that play into either your career or your business or things like that.
Okay. All right. Very good. And I would love to hear, I know you can't share a ton of different details because, of course, client confidentiality, but if you had any big wins that you can generalize, I guess, in sharing, they're going, oh, this person came in with this and now they're $1 million client or a CEO of this company or something. Is there any crazy cool wins you got that you're able to share? And if you can't, I totally understand. I just was curious.
Yeah. So yeah, like you said, everything is confidential in my client agreements, but I can take from recent testimonials that I've had from clients that I've wrapped up with. So one of my favorite clients that I worked with last summer, it was the height of the pandemic, and it was, yeah, it was just such an amazing time to be working with someone going through what she was going through. But generally, and what she shared in her testimonial was that she felt really stuck in her career, and she had felt that way for over 5 years. And even like her family had called her indecisive, and she was taking that on and feeling that and like didn't know what to do next. And she, you know, she even said within 8 weeks of us working together, she was more decisive than she's ever been. She felt very confident in the new direction that she wanted to go and was actively taking steps to get there and was like genuinely excited for it in a way that, again, she hadn't been in 5 years, which to me, reading that honestly made me tear up and made me so excited, because that's exactly why I got into this. And that was similar to my story of when I first hired a coach. Is I had no idea what I wanted next. I knew I just wanted to be doing more, and had to talk through it with someone like a neutral third party in order to get some new perspectives on what I already had inside of me that I wasn't really allowing to come out yet.
That's good. And just kind of turn this into like a marketing thing real quick is what I'll tell clients is, if you're looking at your marketing, ask somebody else not in the company, that's not close to the company, to critique it, because I have, like, for instance, a hard time critiquing my own Slater strategies marketing, because I'm in it every day. I see it every day, but it's really easy for me to look at somebody's marketing and not in a mean way, but just like critique, go, hey, I would change this. I would do this because it's fresh and new. And I'm looking at it for the first time, unlike they are. And so I feel like, kind of going off, the same. I don't know if that meant anything or was good, but I think having somebody on the outside helping us, even with ourselves, which is like you have no skin in the game with the person who's coming to you for help. So you're able to give them advice like, oh, you probably need to get rid of those friends that you have. They're not helping you. And they're like, oh, but no, they're really great. You're like, no, it sounds like they're not. And so because you're on the outside looking in, so it's not like you're, again, with skin in the game. Does that make sense? And do you agree or disagree? We'll go with that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's exactly how I was trained. Is we would, the expression we used a lot is like, you can't be on the court with them. Like if they're playing a game or whatever it is, they're on the field, the court, whatever sport metaphor you want to use. It's like, you're not on the field with them. You're not doing the work with them. You're on the sidelines, literally like a coach, and you're helping them see the bigger picture. So they're like maybe micro focused on, the ball right in front of them or the person right in front of them or whatever it is, but you're able to step back and see all these other things that are going on. And it's different, like you said, being that third party, neutral third party, it's different from like your friends and family who are in your little bubble too, and just see you for however long they've seen you, maybe your whole life. And they're like, yeah, you have always been indecisive, and they feed into that. And then you get stuck in that cycle and you don't believe you can get out of it because everyone in your life sees you that way. And it's just a perpetuating cycle. So I can come in and be like, hey, actually, there's this other area of your life you're super decisive, or like, you hired me, that was very decisive. Like, how else can you be decisive? And, like foster that relationship and kind of, be that cheerleader and coach in the sense of seeing new possibilities and trying new things in a safe environment and non-judgmental. And I don't know your whole history and your whole past and all your ex-boyfriends and whatever it is. And I'm not judging you for any of that. I'm just here. Hey, I know where you want to go in the future, and I know where you're at today. And we can objectively mark that path, again, whether it's for your life or your business, which I think, like you said, looking at your own marketing can be really hard. So having this like a neutral third party, and that's why I love now that I'm combining like my professional background with marketing with this passion of coaching, to like bring that together and say, like, let me help you see things that you can't see in your business because you're like so close to it.
And with family, not everybody's close to the family, but you got family and friends that are always, there's the good ones and the bad ones, where we'll go, oh, Brittany, you are just so great and you're perfect. They'll like, oh, sometimes we need that. We need that in life to build us up. But there's sometimes we need the truth. And if my business idea I just gave you is not a good idea, please tell me so I don't waste $100,000 in a couple of years of my life on something I should have thought. So this is why it's good to outside people, again, like a coach like yourself, having somebody that no skin in the game, no personal like emotional connection, and they can go, yeah, you really need to do this, this, and this. And so I'm just agreeing with you and saying, yes, I do think people, if they're stuck, they should have a coach, and I really think everybody kind of needs a coach. And for you, for finding clientele, I'm assuming referrals are probably a huge one. You help somebody, they refer you to people that they have connections with that are also needing help. But for you to market and try and get in front of millennials, what is the best way you found to get in touch with them versus you know, you get Gen Z, Gen X, all the other generations. What's kind of been that winning recipe for you?
Yeah, so I've been mostly focused on Instagram, knowing that my, target demographic of millennial women are heavily on Instagram. So I've focused on that in terms of like creating content and sharing a lot of things on that platform. And I also do email marketing, and I also look at LinkedIn, but it's sort of like in that order of priority. And something else I've been doing from a marketing perspective is doing like online challenges, which are, like a 4-week challenge, and it's on a specific topic. And that way I can kind of cater it to the conversations I've been having with people recently, or topics that I know are relevant in a certain amount of time. So it's kind of a mini marketing campaign, but then it's a paid program that they're joining, but it's only $35. So it's a low price point for people to kind of get in and get to know me and my style and get to know what coaching is. Because that's another thing in the industry. There's either people like have no idea what coaching is, or they're like maybe intimidated by it or scared of it or don't understand it, or have maybe some bad like experiences maybe even from it. So it's more like, I like the idea of having a low entry point for people to get to know me and see if we're a fit before they have to commit to anything long term.
I love that. And that's perfect entry point. And I think that's kudos on you. I think that is going to benefit you in the long run if it's not already. And what I'm about to say, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I know, so in the world I grew up in, so I grew up in the church my whole life. I was a youth pastor for 7 years. All that stuff was just always around. When you get married, you go to premarital counseling. That's just something you do, And so my wife and I, when we got engaged, we're like, all right, we're going to do premarital counseling. So we read marriage books, and we met with one of the pastors, and we went over, and it was really good. We learned a lot. And people I know had asked us, they're like, you guys are going to marriage counseling? And we're like, yeah. And they're like, is everything okay? And you're like, yeah. And I was like, and so I kind of like when I started talking about the idea of like counseling or coaching with people, is going, yes, you can go when you have issues and problems, but I also think it's very healthy and very good to go to something to help keep problems or road bumps from maybe happening. Of course, you can't keep everything from happening, but we went to just prepare us as much as possible for this new thing we were going into that none of us had ever done before. And it's the same thing when my wife and I had a kid. I went to all the classes with her. We went to the birth classes. I went to the freaking breastfeeding classes. I went to everything because I wanted to be as prepared as I possibly could and be the best dad I could possibly be. And I enjoyed it. I learned a lot. And so to go into the next part, I was talking to a friend just last week, and we were talking about just the world of coaching and counseling. And she works at a church. And I said, oh, do you do premarital counseling for the couple? She goes, yeah. She goes, but I really don't like premarital counseling. And I was like, okay, why? And she goes, because when you meet with these couples that are about to get married, they're all giggling, all cloud nine, and there's no care in the world. And I was like, okay, yes, I agree. And she goes, I actually like, what she call it, mid-marriage counseling is kind of what she said, but she really meant people who've been married between 5 to 10 years, because it's usually when kids are in the mix, maybe a move has happened, you've been with this person for a while now, so there's conflicts that come up that they need maybe help getting through those conflicts. And she goes, that's my favorite counseling, because those are really fun and you're helping the couple out. And I thought that was really good, but I've always wanted to encourage people, you don't have to wait till you have an issue to go to counseling or get a coach. You can do it to just, maybe they help you realize something that you haven't realized ever before in your life. So that was a really long explanation or an idea, but I want to get your take on what you kind of think of that.
Yeah, I love that perspective too, of like proactive coaching, proactive counseling. Any of the things to get that outside perspective again is can be huge to you, of just getting that new perspective, like you said, and having someone that's really there for you and there for you to succeed. And yeah, that's another big part of coaching, is actually just the accountability aspect of it. So yeah, maybe things are going great and you have these great goals and you want to continue that momentum. So you hire a coach to help you stay true to those goals and stay true to your deadlines and things like that. And it could be that weekly call or bi-weekly call that helps you stay on track so that you don't lose that momentum. Like that's another huge part of it too. It's like, yeah, you don't have to wait till you're down in the dumps and or whatever it is, like things aren't working out and you're so lost and confused, because then you may be even more hesitant to help or get help from someone because you think you're all alone. That's when you kind of get into that spiral of either loneliness or, I see a lot of anxiety and depression in that area when people wait too long down a certain path and then they're hesitant to ask for help because they think, oh, I'm the only one that does this or feels like this and no one can help me and things like that.
Well, I love what you do, as I've mentioned in the beginning. And if other people are listening to the podcast right now and they're like, I need that, and I need that for myself, or maybe they have a loved one or family member that needs some coaching, if they're interested in getting in touch with you, what is one of the best ways they can do that, Brittany?
Yeah, so I mentioned my Instagram page. You can follow me there or send me a message on there. My handle is 𝗕𝗿𝗶𝘁𝘁𝘆, CO at the end. Or you can check out my website at www.𝗕𝗿𝗶𝘁𝘁.co, or even shoot me an email, which again, I know is not as apparent with millennials these days, or popular, I should say, but I'm still on email once or twice a day. So Brittany, BRITTANY @𝗕𝗿𝗶𝘁𝘁.co.
Fantastic. Well, everybody, if you need a coach, reach out to Brittany with all her handles there, and you will be in very good hands. Brittany, thank you so much for taking the time to hop on the podcast. I know it's burning up outside there in North Carolina as well as here in Florida, so I hope you stay cool, and of course wish you absolutely nothing but the best in your company. So thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This is fun.
Well, if you got done with that podcast and you're like, dang, I don't have a coach, or man, I really need a coach, and you're in the millennial generation, you will be in good hands with Brittany. You can connect and find her online and on her website at 𝗕𝗿𝗶𝘁𝘁𝘆.co. That's 𝗕𝗿𝗿𝗶𝘁𝘁𝘁.co. She's a contact form on there. She's got social media pages. You can connect with her that way as well. And you will be in good hands, and she'll be able to take care of you and help you get to that next level if you're currently in a rut. And again, you're in that millennial generation. But if you're not in the millennial generation, that's okay too. There are other coaches, there's other people out there that are here to help you and get to that next level. So I encourage you to reach out, find people on LinkedIn, Google for somebody, find someone, and don't be content with where you are right now in your life. Try and get to that next level and reach your full potential, guys. That's really what we're all about, whether it's in our lives, in our business. We always want to grow and be better than we were yesterday, and that's what I want for you as well. A huge shout out to Brittany. Thank you again for being on the podcast. And again, guys, if you're a millennial and you need some help getting unstuck and to grow, reach out to her at 𝗕𝗿𝗶𝘁𝘁𝘁.co. You will be in good hands. We'll be here next week with another awesome guest as always on the Finally Marketing Networks podcast. We'll see you then.